Hey, welcome. I want to answer two questions that were sent in to the group, one from Patty, one from Andrea. And before I answer those questions, I just want to say thank you to the ladies here that are posting questions, that are encouraging one another. It really gives me a lot of energy to come on here and continue to serve you. So I'm definitely excited to answer these questions. And I also want to let you know we have an interview coming up with an amazing woman who has paid off phenomenal amounts of debt. And we're going to focus on the marriage factor and the spouse factor. So be on the lookout for that. It's probably going to be a live class so that if you do come live, you can answer questions. No, I'll answer the questions. You can ask the questions, or you can answer a question if you have some insight. I'm looking forward to that. So let's get to the question. Patty said, "Hi Larissa, I'm in a good financial position, but I have four rental properties and my own home with very low interest rate mortgages. I feel like these loans provide leverage for me. Should I try to pay off the mortgages early or use my earnings to invest in the market?" Okay, so this is a phenomenal question. And first of all, I am not a fiduciary. I am not a CPA. I am not a professional financial analyst with degrees and certificates. I am a stay at home mom who paid off $92,000 worth of debt in 12 months and became 100% financially free, including my mortgage. So that was huge. And from the moment of becoming financially free, including my mortgage, 4 years later, we became millionaires and we did this on making less than 6 figures a year. So there's a lot that can be done with these strategies. So let's talk about this question and let's break it down. When I strive to share with you how I became debt free, I'm definitely talking about personal debt. When you have no debt, when you don't owe anybody anything, there is a huge freedom in that. And when I say debt free, personal debt, for me, the right choice was not having a mortgage. And I will tell you why. And this is going to be separate from business debt and business leverage. I am all for using other people's money to create a business and create a cash flow. But let me share for a little bit about why you may want to reconsider having a mortgage on your house, especially if you are a single income family. What if something happens to your income and you cannot pay your mortgage? That's a lot of pressure. I know people that lost their homes because they were not able to pay their mortgage. Now, certainly all sorts of different scenarios for that, but there is a freedom and security in knowing your home's paid off. That's huge. So much you can do with that. Once your home is paid off and once you have no more debts, I always encourage you to take the money that you are paying to other people and making them rich, especially if it's credit card companies, and now pay yourself and invest in something that's going to give you a cash flow. One of the things that I do like that's very easy that I started my teenage son on is buying stocks that pay a dividend. So you're buying a part of a company that's going to pay you for owning it. So that's money that's going to work for you without you working for your money. So lots of advantages to paying off your personal debt. You don't want to have the high interest rates in credit card debts. You have a lot of freedom, so much freedom. If you have a home equity line of credit as well, there's a little buffer while you build up some financial accounts that will help you if there's some sort of emergency. So that's the first part of the question. And Patty, I would say look at your own personal financial situation and see if paying off a mortgage would give you a benefit. See if paying off your personal mortgage would give you a benefit. Sometimes just looking at financially, some people might say, oh, well, I have more of a benefit keeping those mortgage payments because it's such a low rate. Sometimes when you run the numbers don't show everything. Sometimes there's an emotional component, a security component that you might still want to pay it off, even if the numbers don't seem like they make sense. Again, a very, very personal decision, but I'm a big advocate of becoming debt free. And as I said before, once we became 100% debt free, including our mortgage, we were able to take what we were paying other people and we were able to invest it in cash flow assets that paid us. Let's talk about business debt. Business debt, having a business is incredible. Patty, you have 4 rental properties with low interest rate mortgages. That's huge. If one of your rental properties or even 2 end up having your tenants leave, you still have 2 others to take up the slack. You are in an amazing position, and I am assuming that you have cash flow, enough cash flow that is not only paying your mortgages, that cash flow should also be paying your principal and your interest and your taxes and building up some money for repairs and things like that. You sound like you are definitely a seasoned real estate investor, and if you love real estate's not for everybody. It is not, it's not a hands-off type operation. Even if you hire a management company, you still have to watch over that management company. Some are better than others. But if you love real estate, get a mortgage. As long as your cash flow is going to pay the mortgage, the principal, the interest, the taxes, and incidentals, have enough of a cushion in case a renter leaves, that you have enough time to fix it up and get a new tenant in there. It's huge. The tax write-offs on that are also really, really attractive. So again, if you like real estate, and if you're listening to this and haven't invested, find a professional. Find a professional real estate agent or investor that can help you. Hey, and you might want to DIY it and get a book and try it yourself, but real estate investing has a lot of benefits. I'm going to give you another bonus tip right here. If you like the idea of real estate, but you know that you do not want to handle tenants, you don't want to handle repairs, you don't even want to handle a management company overseeing those things, there's something called a REIT, a REIT, a real estate investment trust. And for a very, very low amount of money, you can buy shares in companies that already invest in real estate. Now, you're not going to get the tax advantages if you do that, but that is a great way to start investing in real estate where you don't have the overhead, you don't have the maintenance, and You don't have to come up with the capital. You could probably buy a share in one of those REITs for $20 or less. And again, as I said, I started my teen son in investing in stocks that pay a dividend when he was a teen. And some of our stocks were those REITs. Look it up. Great way to have some benefits of real estate investing without spending the massive capital and having the overhead. But if you love real estate, yeah, real estate makes a lot of millionaires. Very, very, very impressive. I grew up with my mom investing in real estate, and she had um, multiple properties that produced income. So I hope that answers your question of should you pay off those 4 rental properties? Probably not if they're bringing you a cash flow. Should you pay off your own home? Maybe. Take a look at everything surrounding the home financially, emotionally, see if that's the right decision for you. And should you put some earnings into the market? Hey, why not? I do. I love it. I love to look for stocks that are going to pay me a dividend, and then I have that dividend automatically reinvested. That is absolutely a great option. All right, so I'm going to go to my next question, question number 2, and our final question for tonight as I am looking this up. Okay, so this is Andrea. Great, great question. She says that she is finally going over her finances. And by finance, first time, mostly separate in over 19 years. Okay, long time. Never too late. Better late than never. Start now. If you are listening to the recording of this, take a look at your finances. What are you spending? What's it going to? How much do you have? Now, she says she's been going over her budget weekly since 2019. That is huge. If you make a commitment to go over your budget every single week, just review it, track some things, you're going to have a better handle on your money. If you want something to improve and you don't track it, you're not serious. If you want to get fit, usually you're tracking weight, calories, macros, you're tracking something. Whatever you want to improve. All right, here's bonus tip number 2. Whatever you want to improve in life, you must track. I don't care what it is. You want to improve your sleep? Track it. You want to improve your steps? Track it. If you don't track it, you're not going to know whether you're really improving or whether you're not. So Andrea is going over her budget. She's been going over it weekly since 2019. That's awesome. She says it feels different figuring out how much things cost and if my pay will stretch. Yes, we all definitely want to pinch some pennies sometimes. We want our money to make it to the end of the month. We don't want to have more month than money, so I'm tracking it. Now she asks, what percentage chart do you use for how much you should put into each category? All right, so we're going to talk about this for a few minutes to give you an idea. Percentages. Key point percentages. The wealthy do not manage their money by dollars. They manage their money by percentages. And here's another tip. If you want what somebody else has, you're going to want to do what they do. If you want what somebody else has, you're going to want to do what they do. And if you want wealth, and the wealthy manage their money by percentages, then you might think, maybe I want to try managing my money by percentages. What does that mean? That means that you choose how much you want to spend in each category by percentages. And before you get to say, oh, but I know that my mortgage is, $1,500 a month and this is that, it's a dollar amount. Categories. We're going to get to that. So an easy number that everybody thinks of is a tithe, 10%, 10% going to charity. A nice round number. Some people call it a tithe, some people give it to their church. Some people, honestly, most people don't give 10%. Like when I have given 10%, my tax person is like, I can't believe you gave that much money. I'm like, it's a percentage. Now let's be clear. If you're talking about a biblical tithe is not 10%. If somebody is teaching you that the Bible says to give 10%, they don't understand the Bible. They don't understand that area of the Bible. I'm sorry. The tithe was a 10th part, and it wasn't money. It was other items. For example, let's go with sheep. If you were a shepherd, and it was every 10th part, it was every 10th one, it was every 10th one that went under the rod. This is in the Old Testament. It never says 10%. It says a 10th part, that is a tithe. So if you were a shepherd and you had 10 sheep, 9 sheep would pass under the rod would come down and take the 10th one. That's easy, that's 10%. What if you were a brand new shepherd and you had 9 sheep? What would your tithe be? Think about it. 9 sheep would go, there's no 10th one. If you were a brand new shepherd and you had 9 sheep, your tithe would be 0%. That's according to the Bible. That is what the people who wrote the Bible, the Hebrews, the Israelites, that's what they did. If you want to give 10% and you're poor, think about it. If you are truly poor, if you can't put food on your table, you're supposed to receive part of the money. So yeah, there's a whole teaching we could go into. Again, if you're a shepherd and you have 19 sheep, you're still only tithing 1 sheep. And the tithe went to the Levites. Only the Levites were allowed to receive the tithe, not any other person, not any other tribe. They did not receive the tithe according to the Bible. So in reality, nobody can tithe the way the Bible states it, because usually we're dealing with money, number one, and number two, we do not have a Levitical priesthood in Jerusalem receiving tithes. So giving is still important. The Bible also talks about free will offerings and sin offerings and giving and charity, and there is a part in the Bible where God slammed the Levites and he said, you know what, you're taking the tithe, but you're not tithing me. The Levites were supposed to tithe and do something with that money, including taking care of the poor, the orphan, and the widow. So, long story short, you want to give. My personal ratios have been 10, 20, and 70. 10, 20, and 70. And that's 10% going to charitable organizations that want to serve the poor, the orphan, the widow, the sex trafficked, organizations that are not taking a penny for themselves. There are some organizations that have corporate sponsors so that the overhead and the employees and the stationery and all that sort of stuff is paid for. So 100% of your money goes straight to the cause. One of those organizations is King's Ransom. I also like to donate to local food banks. I like to donate to things that are in my local area as well. So 10% for that. 20% is investing. 20% is what I like to spend to investments. Now, I'm going to say sometimes you want to invest in yourself. I do trading, and one time I did get a course with actual one-on-one live instruction on how to trade and how to learn the stock market. I don't know, it was close to $800. That was an investment that I'll get 100% return on, because that is one investment. When you invest in yourself, you have control over what return you're going to get on that investment. But I do invest in the stock market. I invest in dividend producing stocks, like I said. And then the other 70% is what we have to live on. The other 70% is where I break down the dollar amounts of housing and auto and food and gifts and fun and travel. Don't forget the fun budget. That's how I break it down. When I was in debt, I was putting less to charity and less to investing and more to debt. And actually, I don't think I was putting anything to investing at that time because I didn't have the knowledge. So I definitely encourage you to always put a little bit towards investing, just a little bit, even if it's 1%, while you're paying off debt. A lot of people, Grace had mentioned, she uses this rule. It's the 10, 10, 10, 70 rule. 10 to charity, 10 to paying yourself, 10 to paying off your debt, and 70 to live on. Now, these numbers are not set in stone. These are for you to look at your own personal situation. Maybe you're in a situation where you're like 70% to live on. Like I can't get below 80% to live on. Okay, 80%. Then you've got 20% left. Do you want to do 5% to charity and 5% to paying down debt? Like, how do you want to structure it? Pick a percentage, work with it. You can always change it down the road. There you go. So the percentage chart I use is 10, 20, 70. And Grace had mentioned she does 10, 10, 10, 70 because she still has debt she's paying off. So 2 questions answered, some few tips thrown in. Please continue to ask your questions. I love to answer them. Be on the lookout for live classes coming back, live Q&As, so that we can have a live conversation together. I enjoyed this time with you. Thank you again for tuning in and for going after your financial freedom. Faith, finance, freedom. I believe that God wants us to have abundance. I believe you have everything you need to set yourself financially free. You have it in you. And if you need a little help, take a look at some of the other videos that I made and continue going for it.